A constant fight that you have to have against people online as a fan of FGO is defending against the point that Fate, as a series, began from an rogue. People use this as a point of contention, putting their game above FGO on no greater basis than the fact that theirs didn't have such solid origins. Mind you, this is disregarding that pornography has been a driving force in media and is directly responsible for helping to revolutionize mediums such as the VHS, CD, magazine, and video games. This is also disregarding that a lot of the people making these claims against FGO then go and tame their tale to animated children from their superior gacha game. But that's aside from the point. I, for one, accept the NSFW origins of Fate, understanding the history of visual novels at the time, and respect the series as a whole for moving away from those roots. However, where the creators ceased, the fans raised their arms and took to tablets, creating the topic of today's video: Doujins. As of the year 2025, there are over 400 servants in FGO, and just about all of them, and I do mean all of them, have a doujin of them in the lead position. But 400 is too many to sort through to find out who is the best of the best. I'm talking the cream of the crop, the grand slam, the king of the ring, the mole of the mountain, my grandma's secret recipe for apricot cookies, the very best that there is. Today, I put to rest what Fate servant has the best doujins. Let's start with the wording. Best doujins with an S at the end, meaning that we are not looking for the #1 doujin of all time. We want the character that is the millennia of doujins, the ones who have never seen defeat, meaning that some characters who you think are a shoo-in are instantly dragged down by the volume of certain types of doujins. Now, you may ask yourself, what gives you the authority to make this decision, as everyone has different preferences? Let's start with actually explaining what a doujin is. In the event that you have no idea what I'm talking about and clicked on this video, or if my last April Fool's video is anything to go off of, you're lying and said that my video auto-played on your feed, a doujin is a self-published manga. Contrary to what some may believe, doujins are not inherently pornographic in nature. In fact, most manga creators start as doujin artists, making self-published stories that they then sell at conventions or try to get picked up by publishers. In fact, Type Moon famously has its roots in this culture, which is part of the reason why it's so widely regarded in Japan. It has its origins in doujin circles that evolved into an internationally acclaimed company. But for our purposes, we're just going to look at the naughty ones. What we are functionally going to do is slowly carve away at the massive cast of characters by eliminating factors that make a doujin potentially undesirable for people. Also, I apologize to the women in the audience, this is only covering the females in Fate and not the male ones, because, if you could believe it, I am a straight man who has not dabbled in any doujins where the main focus is a male servant. Let's start with maybe the most egregious factors for a lot of people: children and animals. Children go without saying. If you want to argue that lolicon is not pedophilia, I challenge you to stop consuming adult content that isn't you and a significant other of age for more than a month, and check back on how you feel. Porn addiction can make things like that seem okay when they aren't, and I hope that you receive the help that you need. Sorry, Chloe fans. Animals are equally as bad in this sphere because certain characters become the targets of this specific interest. Sanzo, for instance, has maybe one of my favorite doujins with her in Nightingale, but because the majority of the Sanzo catalog also involves horses, she is eliminated from this list. In this category, I am also including Shuten and Melusine. Now, in-game, neither of these characters are lollies. Here's a picture of Shuten. Here's a picture of the person who she's modeled after, her voice actress Aoi Yuki. Short women are real, and short Japanese women are very real. However, despite this, many artists take the route that caters to the loli niche by reducing these characters into more loli-like forms. Due to this being fairly common, both of these characters are included at the bottom here. The next criteria is excessive NTR. NTR on its own is something that I don't personally seek out, but I understand that it is a big thing for a lot of people. That said, when certain characters have almost exclusively NTR made of them, it makes the enjoyment factor for people outside of that fetish diminish. Unfortunately, this is where the vast majority of super popular characters drop, like Mash, Saber, and Tomoe. These are characters with a defined love interest, and when so many doujins are just them cucking that interest, A, it's boring after a while, and B, it's low-hanging fruit and lacks creativity. I added the term excessive to this listing as well, because there is one dedicated artist who has made it their mission in life to draw NTR of every newly released female servant, sacrificing quality of work for quantity. Kind of on that same route, characters who get the ugly bastard treatment frequently are also removed from this list. Most of the time, ugly bastard and NTR go hand in hand, but for whatever reason, certain characters, Murasaki, seem to attract that kind of crowd. Now, I know some people don't particularly care about this tag, given that the man in most doujins like this is meant to be easily projected onto, and usually faceless as well to aid that process. Contrary to what some may believe, given I use a VTuber avatar, I have trouble projecting myself onto a fat, out-of-shape old man. I would pray that if you find that easy, you get a good exercise routine and build some muscle. Kind of in that same vein of NTR is Assault of the Demonetized variety. For whatever reason, some characters in so many of their doujins are not having a good time, if you will. Normally, this happens to servants who had a history wherein which they lost, or have a superiority complex that the author wants to tear down. A perfect example of this is Boudica. Adorable character, good design, 90% or more of her doujins are not consensual. Call me a freak, but I prefer my characters to all be enjoying themselves in my hentai. Next is where I will argue the vast majority of characters fall off. Lack of content. Thanks to the ever-talented artists and authors out there, I can say that most characters have at minimum one piece to their name. But a piece does not a collection make. As such, many characters are being axed from this list altogether, even if the few doujins that they have are great. Characters like Chin Liang Yu, Barkus, Lakusta, Daikokuten, Carmilla, Hokusai, Nobu, Shiba, Sei, the list goes on. All have but a handful of doujins, and most are made by one very passionate fan of theirs. Which also unfortunately means that the few doujins that they do have are riddled with that singular author's barely disguised fetish. Like, I don't know what the obsession is with making Bargus pregnant with a six-pack, but that is not, nor has it ever been, what I'm looking for. Now that we've narrowed things down substantially, let's start getting personal. At this point in the video, someone has likely thought to themselves, so it's whoever has the most vanilla doujin wins. And that's where you're wrong, mouth breather. Vanilla is a superior flavor, being used to enhance the flavors of other things through its natural sweetness and tones. On its own it's fine, but if you eat only vanilla all the time, you'll get bored quickly. Rather, the best flavors are those that use vanilla as a base and build upon them. As such, characters that receive just vanilla doujins are off this list as well. Okita, for example, has primarily lovey-dovey romantic doujins or Yuri ones with Nobu. That's fine, it's good, but I won't come back for seconds. This ultimately leaves me with a handful of servants who fit my criteria. Servants who are not frequently the subject of NTR, ugly bastard, animals, being a child, overly fetishy but not vanilla content. These servants are Nidokris, Erish Kegel, Ushiwakamaru, MHX, Jalter, and Nightingale. So, now we are simply going to compare their greatest hits against each other and eliminate them one by one until we have a victor. First on the chopping block is Erish Kegel. All around solid content, has some big name artists that have drawn her, but so frequently shows up with Ishtar. This isn't inherently bad, but it does make it seem as though Erish herself isn't why people come to read. So, due to bad pairings, she's out. Jalter is a fan favorite, and for good reason. Arguably, she is one of the most dynamic characters in FGO, being a side character that has grown substantially since when we first met her. Her popularity has made it somewhat difficult to find decent doujins of her. She is suffering from success and has a bounty of good tainted by a bounty of bad. Every single disqualifying factor I listed above has applied to Jalter in some way, and while her abundance does drown the bad ones out a bit, I feel like it should factor into her not having the overall best. Nightingale is next on this list for a different reason. Nightingale is, entirely on a technicality, in the realm of fetish. This is because she is a kudere, or stone-faced. She rarely changes expressions, generally keeping the same cold demeanor as she does in-game. Additionally, most of her doujins play around the same concept, so they go stale after a while. How many times can we see her take a sample for medical purposes? It's hot. I'm not denying that it isn't hot, but it's maybe a bit too one note for the best slot. Nidokris kind of falls into the same issue as Erish Kegel, but rather than having a consistent partner in crime, Nidokris always feels like she's someone else's side piece. Solo Nido content is weirdly rare, usually being paired with Shiba or Scheherazade, or Mash in a decent amount as well. This isn't to say that these are bad doujins, quite the opposite, but unfortunately she needs to carry her own weight to be the best. And this is where we're at an impasse. Two absolute titans of the Fate doujin world, the Mike Tyson and Muhammad Ali of having never once missed. Ushiwakamaru and Mysterious Heroine X. If I wanted to do a cop-out, I could say that they're a tie, and in a lot of ways, they are. But no, I am no coward. Porn is war, my friends, and the winner of this battle is Mysterious Heroine X. I love Ushi, and she has one of the most talented artists essentially carrying her in the doujin world, that being the ever-talented Pinta. But I feel like that is also Ushi's downfall. She is being carried by one very dedicated artist. Ushi gets a decent amount of attention, mind you. She is not lacking in the doujin department at all, but the peak of her quality all comes from one person, and so she will be taking the silver medal. Meaning, the gold medal goes to Mysterious Heroine X. She has it all. office lady shenanigans, space setting, cute clumsy attitude, and best of all, a good variety of high quality doujins. She also has a very talented artist backing her whenever he takes a break from drawing Jormal's mom getting railed, Tanabe. Between this and her solid variety, there is no better subject of doujins than MHX. Well, this was stupid. And probably a little controversial. Take everything that I said with the day that this is published and accuse me of being a gooner or something of that sort if that makes you feel better about yourself. Remember, I made a video about this topic, but you wouldn't be here to accuse me if you hadn't watched this far. So, are you really any better than I am? Anyway, check my socials and links down below, and don't ask me to do this for the guides because I never will. Bye!
Banana!